All right, Tubers, Jeff Lindsay in the garage. It is Monday, March the 9th. I had mentioned in a previous video that we had a problem with something. There was a reason that the driver's side of the core was a ½ inch lower than the passenger side. After we got out here today and we just wanted to find out, or try to find out, what the issue is. This core is aftermarket. We've mentioned that before. And I figured it probably had to be in these brackets. So we started doing some measuring, and really you don't even have to measure to see the difference. First off, if you look at this bracket, it is cocked sideways. There's very little room between the edge of the bracket and where this stamping is here. Very little on the driver's side. If you come over to the passenger side bracket, there's an inch almost. And where there's maybe a ½ inch on the other side. This bracket is also kicked out sideways. You can look at the slotted part of the bracket against the core, the hole that's in the core. You can tell that the hole is actually touching the top part of this slot. Completely opposite on this side, it's actually over the hole a little bit at the other side, at the bottom. So there's no doubt that these brackets were just kind of thrown on there and spot welded, and they're not even close, nowhere near close. There's a lot of adjustment, a lot of play where the bushings go. You got these big slotted areas here. So there's a lot of adjustment to be able to mount the fenders and of course your hood and everything. But the issue becomes which bracket is right. If I measure from the bottom of that bracket to the very edge of this stamping, I get 11.5 on the driver's side, and I get a full 12 inches, almost 12 inches, like so maybe a 16th being 12 inches. So there's my ½ inch difference in these brackets. Checking it from the bottom, you've got about 2.5 inches to the edge or the lip. This one, you've got about 3¼ to the beginning of it there. Again, pretty close to 2.5, right in there. And pretty close to 3, so that pretty close to ½ inch, maybe 5/8, but depending on which way that is cocked and which side you measure from, and then these lips aren't probably exactly the same, but there's definitely a ½ inch difference. The question becomes which bracket is correct. I have no way of knowing. That's something that the book, the manual that I have, will not tell you. If anybody out there, second geners, if you've got an original core or a good aftermarket core that you hadn't put on yet, and you can get this measurement from here to here, which measurement is right? Is it 12 inches? Is that the right measurement? Or is it 11.5? Worst case scenario, I pop them both off and set them both and just split the difference. End up with 11.75 on both. That's a ½ inch difference total. Should be able to adjust everything out by doing that, I would think. The other option is just to center this slotted part on that hole on both of them and see what I end up with before I weld them, of course, but just double check that way. But anyway, you see the dilemma. Anybody building a second gen, if you buy an aftermarket core, something you may want to look at before you do anything. Measure those. Make sure that they are correct from here to there, or from there to the bottom, however, you know, whichever way you want to measure it. Obviously, these are off pretty bad. So, anybody that has an original or an aftermarket core, if you can get a measurement and just comment to this video, I'll go ahead and put it up this afternoon and give it a few days. And if, you know, worst case scenario, again, I'll just split the difference, center them up, straighten them up, re-weld them, and keep going. But that's the difference, and that's why that driver's side was, I mean, you could look across the top of the firewall and you could tell that that core was drooping, was bad off. I looked at all the bushings, I looked at the subframe, made sure that it wasn't in the subframe or the bushings, and then of course as soon as you see this, it's pretty obvious. All right, that's 6 minutes of babbling and gabbling. We'll upload this and hope for a response. Thanks, everybody.